What's one thing you deeply regret? Was struggling with anxiety and depression. Going on autopilot for a couple months. Wanted to visit with my friend but never had the energy. She died unexpectedly in February. Feel like I let her down. Not being an active decision maker in life. Just flowing through time and life like a dead plant. Dead plant. Man, that part hit really deep, honestly. Being too scared to make the leap. Justifying myself back from the edge. Staying safe, where absolutely nothing happens. I am an amateur musician. Always playing by myself in my bedroom for years. I had a few friends I jammed with but nothing serious at all. Slight performance anxiety kept me from getting out and expressing myself. On a whim I went down to a local amateur jam at a bar. Nerves on absolute fucking edge. I was welcomed with open arms. Friendly faces with similar lifestyles. Ever since I've been going every other week for a couple years. Joined a band that is locally successful. Met women, bar owners, pro athletes, hardcore bikers, comedians and all sorts of unique characters. Became a regular and well known. Gave me a purpose that still drives me to this day. Take the leap, man. Dating my ex, believing I was his girlfriend while he cheated. For too long. This was me. Shit hurts when you finally realize it and step away. Not calling my parents more. I lost both this year and I'd give anything to talk to them one more time. Or hug them both. I feel this and am sorry. 13 years for me this year and I still miss them every day. Asked my husband to sleep on the couch that one night. I woke up to find him dead the next morning. My wife asks me to sleep on the couch every once in a while when my snoring is out of hand and she has to get up early. It's not uncommon. I feel the greatest amount of empathy for you. Such a simple request between partners that neither of you could have foreseen to have such terrible consequences. I hope you understand that you aren't responsible for what happened. Not seeing a psychiatrist sooner. Spent 6 years getting a 4-year degree. And that's with a full course load every semester. Struggled throughout my entire school life. Struggled with talking to people. Thrived online and over text though. The year after graduation, finally sought out help. Turns out I have a learning disability. Specifically, auditory processing disorder. Requested reasonable accommodation at work and my production doubled. All I needed was to be able to read what people were telling me. I've watched more movies in the last 2 years than I have in my whole life. Subtitles are a game changer. I'm living in a new world. If you think movies and shows are impossible to follow. If you walk away from conversations with no idea what was said. If you have bosses constantly repeating directions to you. Or if you hate phone calls because they're ineffective. That's not normal. Look into it. Hey, I feel like that's been me my whole life. There are times when PPL talk to me but I can make the words up. I have to ask them like 2 times before I understand. There are times when I feel like things aren't right but I just can't put my finger on it. Except after the fact. And I suck at spelling. I know I misspelled something BC, it doesn't look right. But I don't know how to spell it. Not answering my friend's phone call as it was late at night and I had exam the next day. Woke up to the news that she killed herself. Not your fault. I don't think many people would have taken that call. It's definitely not their fault, but I've always had it ingrained into me that a late call is always one to answer. Usually if someone's calling you at that time they're either drunk or in some kind of trouble. Sometimes both. When I was young we used to call each other all night long. Now my friends would never dream of calling after 9. That's why I wouldn't have thought anything of it when I was young. Loving a guy only to find out he had a girlfriend the whole time. I think the regret comes from me letting him fuck with my head for much longer than the relationship lasted. Dude, this happened to my friend. The guy even invited her to his home country to meet his family, and as soon as she landed, he told her that they should only act like friends. Her visit lasted a whole 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Heartbroken. With a guy and his family and his girlfriend and over $1,000 short because she paid for both of their flights. Fuck that guy. Not asking out my crush before this whole quarantine thing. Same. I found out a girl I liked had a crush on me. And now I am moving. Looking back I realized my other crush probably also liked me. When my dad told me he was dying, I was 10. We sat out back and it was the first time he showed emotion. He said, "Do you know what cancer is?" To which I responded, "Yes," and he began to hug me and cry. As a 10-year-old I didn't understand the depth of what he was telling me. Now at 34 I deeply regret not hugging him for longer that day. Caring too much about what people think of me. I feel this one. Reading that, "How do you get over someone?" thread here from yesterday. I thought I was fine before, but that made me spiral pretty hard. I checked out that thread too. But I just kept seeing the same old, "time heals all wounds" nonsense. No. Time does not heal all wounds. There are some wounds that will only heal once you recognize a specific problem and deal with it. Some problems require you to go through specific steps and run through a specific path in order to reach a solution. I was still head over heels for my last ex 5 years after we broke up. In 5 whole years, my feelings never diminished. 2.5 years were spent with extremely little contact between us. But even then I thought about her every day. And always at my worst. What finally got me past her was one last conversation. One last time I tried to reach out to her. And she met me with hatred. I realized how broken everything had been. Too broken. I realized there was no hope at all. No spark to ignite. No embers to fan. The person I knew and loved was long gone. All that was left was a void. And that's exactly where all of my feelings for her went. No more chest sinking when I think about her. No more heart aches when I hear songs that used to remind me of her. No more pain. Oh. Hi person who did the thing. I'm at 6'5" now. It ebbs and flows. I feel weird after all this time. Most of the last 3-ish years being near no contact doing that. At the range time, I suspect, like for you, that conversation would be the closure to put it behind me. I also learned I need to be more emotionally available. She was the first person I was like that with. And look at me now lol. Not good to only have the one real outlet. Not answering the phone call from my dad 2 days before he died. That was the last chance I had to talk to him. And I just sent it to voicemail because I didn't want to talk to him at the time. Please don't let that affect you. It's in the past. You can't change it now. Keep moving forward. Being a horrible piece of shit to my old friends. It really screwed me up mentally and emotionally in the end, and I'm still dealing with the consequences. If there was one thing I could change in the past, that would be it. Not being more social and spending lots of time alone in my room in high school. It's difficult to make friends and break out of your shell later in life. And even your best friends have bigger ambitions than living by you their whole life. Not sure how old you are, but I think a lot of people become their most social selves in college. In college it's easier to find people with similar interests and quirks as you. Anyway, I can relate. As I got older and started working, I didn't make an effort to be social after work and on weekends and found myself alone a lot. It's hard. College was probably my least social part of my life. I basically spent all my time on schoolwork or dealing with my chronic pain. Now I'm basically focusing on work and my chronic pain. Being the toxic one in the friendship when I was keeping myself convinced I was the victim. This is literally me. I kept complaining to my other friends saying that I was the victim. I was in a toxic relationship. I kept spreading shit about this friend that I called toxic. Years later I've realized how toxic I really was. Sad face, so I feel ya. Going to college. You wish you had or you wish you hadn't. I deeply regret going to college. I was borderline forced by family. Didn't finish. Ruined my mental health for years. And wasted a ton of time and money. Sorry to hear that. I teach at a high school for very at-risk students with a lot of emotional, behavioral and educational disabilities. I gladly help any of them who wish to go to college set up applications and college letters. But I make sure to let them all know that college is not for everyone and that, frankly, a lot of trades can earn more money than a desk job from a college degree. Lots of my students love learning about cars and working on them. Others love doing maintenance stuff. Working with their hands. Anything that keeps them moving. They usually volunteer to help the custodians at the end of the day. But they also love working with wood and metal. Every time, I offer to look up ways they can get into the trade that works for them and help them write a letter for an apprenticeship. I know my students, I know which ones just do not find interest in academics. They have received their high school level of academics. And now it is fair for them to decide that they shouldn't risk money on hoping they suddenly are interested in math and literature. I only have one regret. I didn't have time to reconcile with my sister before she passed of cancer. Literally got there a few days late. She was induced into a coma and I watched her fade away over a few days. She was not a good person growing up, lied, cheat, steal, drug addiction etc. and I carried a lot of issues as I got older, but I wish I could have just had a conversation with her before everything went south. She made numerous attempts when she was diagnosed to mend our relationship, but I just wouldn't have any of it. That's on me and I've carried that baggage for a long time. Constant worrying. Either I worried about something and it didn't happen, so I was choosing misery over literally nothing. Or it did happen and I just found a way through it. Maybe I dealt with it. Maybe it worked itself out. Maybe somebody helped me out. But it was never once improved by me worrying in advance. This made me think of this quote: "Worrying does not take away tomorrow's troubles. It takes away today's peace," and I know it sounds cheesy, but I think it really is true. Cheating on my girlfriend and causing so much hurt. I don't want to get too intrusive, but I'm interested in what your thoughts were. Were you unhappy with your relationship or something? Honestly, I don't expect you to answer. Smiley face. It's alright. I've spoken a lot about it. To be absolutely honest, I don't think that was the case at all. I think it was as simple as being drunk and having a pretty girl come on to me. I wish it was deeper than that, but I was just an asshole at the time. It's great that you're honest about it. A lot of people would claim that they weren't actually cheating or something. I wish you well on future endeavors, friend. I mean, I did hide it from her, but once she did find out, I didn't try to deny it. No point in me not being open and honest about it, as these things tend to come out. Thank you. You too. I wasn't a very nice older brother when me and my two younger brothers were younger. I almost killed them a couple of times just over stupid shit. But when you're 12 and a few inches taller than your brother, it's too easy to just manhandle them. We have a great relationship now. All three of us call and play games at least once a week, but I don't know if it'll ever be enough to undo the harm I've caused them. An apology would be huge here if you've not already acknowledged to them that you realize your behavior was inappropriate and dangerous. Kinda silly to be hung up on this, but I am pretty sure when I was 17/18 the girl I was in a relationship with was the love of my life. I was young and dumb. We both were. It felt extremely intense and I wasn't mature enough to actually handle something like this. We obviously crashed, and even though she tried to reconcile a year later, I was still too young and dumb. And hurt. It's now 8 years later. I am of course not sad or heartbroken about it in the classical sense. But I would for sure redo a lot of things if I could. I fell in love with a few other women afterwards. And while I truly did love especially the recent one, I always had doubts in the back of my mind because it didn't feel as explosive and amazing like with the one back in the day. Also working out sooner. I am happy with how I look now. But Jesus man, honestly, just sign up to your nearest gym and do it. Just do it. Yo. That's fine. The first love is always the most explosive. But it doesn't last. That's the thing. You are in your most hormonal. But also immature, insecure. Everything is intense. It's crazy how intense. The highs so high. The lows can be some of the lowest. And with time, the memory tends to sweep away the lows and shine up the highs. As it does. But that's about it. It's a first love that didn't last because it was not meant to last. The love of your life is the person you end up really connecting with on a deep level. In a way you haven't imagined up until that point. The love won't be as explosive. It will be different though. It will be stable, constantly increasing, and long-lasting. Ideally forever if you play your hand right. I'm 10 years with someone now. I like to say that compared with previous relationships, it's like a stable and maintained slow cook. The kind of cook that you keep tending and tasting and taking care of. While my previous relationships were more like a high-heat stir-fry.